Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're exploring Swami Satchidananda's The Living Gita. Is his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
And we're going to approach this like we always do, trying to distill these like really ancient, profound concepts into something that's like clear and
useful. Yeah.
And useful.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
actionable.
And I think that's the whole point is like, how can we make this ancient wisdom, relevant for our modern lives?
Yeah. And I think for this deep dive in particular, it would be cool to kind of, approach this as if we're explaining these concepts.
Oh, I like that.
To a genius, right?
Oh, that's a fun.
To someone who can just grasp things really quickly.
So someone who can just cut through the BS, and so how can we make this really understandable?
Yeah. How can we explain this in a way that someone like that would be like, oh, hi. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Full next topic.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that.
Yeah.
Because I think so often these ancient texts are presented in a way that's so dense and jargony and
inaccessible.
Inaccessible, exactly.
Yeah.
And so this is about how can we just like distill the pure wisdom,
the essence,
so that it can actually be applied.
Right.
So starting right off the bat, one of the core concepts that the Gita talks about is the Atman.
Oh, yeah. The self.
The self.
The true self.
And this is something that's distinct from our body.
Yeah.
And our mind.
Totally different.
So how would you explain the Atman to our genius listener?
Well, so the Gita says that, the Atman is, it's eternal, right? It has no beginning and it has no end.
Oh, wow.
It just is.
Yeah. So that's referencing verse 2.12?
Yeah, 2.12.
Yeah, okay.
Where it says, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be.
Oh, wow. So it's like...
Yeah, it's like...
timeless.
Yeah.
It's beyond time.
Yeah.
So for a genius, I think like they're going to pick up on that really quickly. Like,
yeah, they're going to be like, oh, okay, so there's something beyond this physical body, this physical realm.
Yeah, it's almost like kind of like seeing through an illusion.
Oh, yeah.
Like what we think of as real is actually...
It's not the whole picture.
Yeah, it's not the whole picture. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that the Gita does so well is it offers like really simple analogies. And I think even a genius would appreciate that.
Totally.
Just being able to cut to the chase with something really clear.
Yeah.
So, for example, in verse 2.13, it talks about how we experience, childhood and then youth and then old age.
Yeah.
And then eventually death. And then we acquire another body.
Right. Another experience. Another.
Yeah. And it says that this doesn't disturb the calm mind.
Yeah.
So again, it's like there's this underlying continuity, and the Atman is that continuity.
Yeah, it's like you're watching a movie.
Yes.
Right, and you see different characters coming and going on the screen.
Yeah.
But the screen itself,
the screen stays the same.
Remains the same.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And so the Gita isn't just theoretical. It's not just about contemplating these grand ideas.
It's a way of life.
Yeah, it's a practical guide.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the concept of yoga.
Yoga.
Yeah.
Which I think is so often misunderstood.
As just the physical postures.
Yeah, as just the asana.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
And the Gita really emphasizes that.
Yeah. And so how would you explain yoga?
Okay, so yoga is this harmony between our thoughts, our words, and our actions.
That's good.
So it's like, when you're thinking something, but then you're saying something else.
Yeah.
And then you're doing something completely different.
Yeah, you're not aligned.
You're out of alignment.
Yeah, you're out of integrity.
Yeah, you've fallen from yoga.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Fallen from yoga.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about being a good person or being a bad person. It's like, but are you in alignment with yourself?
Are you walking your talk?
Yeah. Are you walking your talk? Are you living in accordance with what you believe?
Right. Are you integrated as a human being?
And that leads us to Raja Yoga or integral yoga, which Swami Satchidananda talks a lot about.
Yeah.
And this is really about blending that theory and practice, taking all this beautiful philosophy from the Gita and actually applying it.
In your life.
Yeah.
That's your everyday life. Yeah, it's like, what's the point of having all this knowledge if you're not going to do anything with it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I imagine for our genius listener, they might be really quick to understand the concepts.
Right.
But then there might be a little bit of impatience with the practice.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay,
I get it. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But the Gita is saying, like, no.
Yeah.
Like, this is a lifelong practice.
This is a journey.
Yeah, this is a journey. And actually, Swami Satchidananda brings up the idea that it's never too late to start.
That's right.
So even if you've been, living a certain way for a long time, it's never too late to start.
Never too late to change.
Integrating these teachings.
That's right. And he even says in chapter 2, either you're born with this understanding, or you gain it through experience, or you hear it from someone wise.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And you take it to heart.
Yeah.
And you put it into practice.
That's the key. That's the key.
Yeah. So let's talk about action.
Correct.
Because the Gita talks a lot about selfless action or karma yoga. And this is, I think, one of the things that people...
It's a really important piece.
Yeah, they get really tripped up on.
Yeah.
Because there's so much confusion around karma.
Yeah.
And what it means to act in the world.
Yeah.
So how can we explain karma yoga to our very discerning listener?
Okay, so first of all, Gita says, yoga is perfection in action. Yoga karmasu koshalam.
That's 2.50.
Yeah, 2.50.
Okay.
And it's saying that, perfection isn't about the outcome.
Oh?
It's about how you perform the action.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like...
So it's not about achieving a certain goal.
No.
It's about the way in which you're moving through the world.
Yeah, it's the attitude.
Yeah, the attitude.
The intention.
The intention behind it.
Yeah.
So would you say it's more about the motivation?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about the motivation. It's about doing it with joy.
Yeah.
And without any expectation of a reward.
Interesting. So it's like pure action.
Pure action, yeah.
Without attachment to the outcome.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a hard one for people.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in our very goal-oriented society.
Yeah, we're so attached to results.
Yeah, we're so attached to results.
We're so outcome-oriented.
But the Gita is saying, like, no, that's not the point.
Detach from the fruits of your actions.
Yeah, detach from the fruits of your actions.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a really good analogy.
Oh, yeah. Swami Satchidananda gives a great analogy.
Yeah, what is it?
He says, imagine being in a cage.
Okay.
Now, it could be a steel cage, which would represent bad karma.
Okay.
Or it could be a golden cage.
Okay.
Or it could be a golden cage.
Okay.
Which represents good karma.
Okay.
But either way...
You're still trapped.
You're still limited.
So even good karma can be binding.
Exactly.
If it's done with attachment.
That's right, if you're attached to the reward.
To the reward?
Yeah.
You're still caught in the cycle.
You're still in the cage.
So the goal is to transcend the cage altogether.
Yes.
To act without that.
Without
attachment.
Yeah.
And the Gita introduces this concept of yajna.
Yajna.
Which is often translated as sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in this context, it means something a little bit different.
It's a little bit more nuanced, yeah.
Yeah. So how would you define yajna?
So yajna is it's action done for the benefit of others.
Okay.
But it's done without any personal attachment.
So it's like pure selfless service.
Pure selfless service, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's referencing verse 4.9?
Yes, 4.9, where it says, one who is dedicated to selfless service is considered a true devotee.
So that's really interesting because it's connecting selfless action with devotion.
With devotion.
With bhakti.
Yeah.
So it's like these things are all intertwined.
They're all woven together.
Yeah, they're all woven together.
Yeah.
Now someone who embodies these teachings, someone who's living this karma yoga and has this kind of selfless devotion.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty amazing person.
They sound pretty enlightened.
Yeah, they sound pretty enlightened. And actually, the Gita has a term for that.
It does.
It's called stitiprajna.
So stitiprajna. Yeah.
So that's someone with a steady wisdom.
Yeah.
Someone who's really embodied these teachings.
Yeah.
And actually, Arjuna in the Gita asks about this.
He does. He's curious.
He's like, what are the characteristics?
Yeah, what does this person look like?
Yeah, how can I recognize them?
Yeah.
So what are some of the hallmarks of a stitiprajna?
So one of the key things is this idea of equal vision.
Equal vision.
Yeah.
So that's in verse 5.18.
Yes, 5.18.
Okay.
Where it says, the wise see with equal vision. A learned and humble brahmana.
Yeah.
A cow.
A cow.
An elephant.
An elephant.
A dog and an outcast.
Oh, wow. So it's like seeing the same...
The same self.
Yeah, the same essence in everyone.
Yeah.
Regardless of their outer...
Appearances.
Yeah, appearances.
Yeah.
Or their social status.
Their role in society.
Yeah, their role in society.
Yeah.
So I think for our genius listener, they might be like, oh, yeah, I get it.
Okay. Next.
Like, non-duality. I understand that.
Yeah.
But the Gita is saying, like, no.
Yeah, it's one thing to intellectually grasp it.
Yeah.
But it's another thing to actually embody it.
Yeah, to actually see the world that way.
See the world that way.
And that's a whole other level of understanding.
Yeah.
And actually, Swami Satchidananda gives a really good analogy here.
He does.
Talks about chocolate.
Chocolate, yeah.
Yeah, he says, you know, you can have all these different types of chocolate. You can have milk chocolate, dark chocolate.
White chocolate.
White chocolate.
Yeah.
You know, different shapes.
Different fillings.
Different wrappings.
But fundamentally, it's all chocolate.
It's all chocolate.
And in the same way, all beings are essentially the same.
They're all the Atman.
Yeah, they're all expressions of the Atman.
Yeah, and so that connects to that teaching that we hear so often.
Oh, yeah.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
Love your neighbor as yourself, yeah.
Which gains a whole new meaning.
A whole new dimension.
Yeah, when we see it through this lens.
And you see the self in everyone.
Yeah, the self in everyone.
Yeah.
Now, the Gita also explores the role of faith and devotion.
Bhakti yoga.
Yeah, bhakti yoga.
Yeah.
And this is something that I think a lot of people who are very intellectually inclined kind of shy away from.
Yeah, they're a little hesitant.
Yeah, they're like, oh, that's too woo-woo.
Too much emotion, yeah.
Too much emotion.
Yeah.
But the Gita is saying, like, no.
Yeah.
This is actually a really important part.
It's a crucial aspect,
of the path.
Yeah.
And so how can we explain bhakti yoga?
So bhakti yoga is really about cultivating this love and devotion for the divine.
So is it about, like, praying to a certain god?
Not necessarily. It's more about this inner yearning, this longing for connection.
So it's like a feeling.
It's a feeling more than a...
It's a heartfelt connection.
Yeah, a heartfelt connection.
Yeah.
And actually, Swami Satchidananda says that, you know, God is always present.
Always present,
But we have to be hungry.
We have to be receptive.
Yeah, we have to be receptive. We have to be open to that presence.
Yeah, it's like God is knocking on the door.
Yeah.
But are we going to answer?
Are we going to answer? Are we even aware that there's a knock?
Exactly.
And so I think for our genius listener, you know, they might be like, well, how do I even know?
Yeah.
How do I even know that God is real?
Right. How do I perceive this presence?
Yeah. How do I perceive this presence?
Yeah.
And the Gita's saying, like, it's not always going to be this, like, grand, you know,
epiphany or this, like, huge revelation.
It can be very subtle.
It can be very subtle.
Yeah. It can be through a friend. It can be through nature. It can be through a book. It can be through a song. It can be through anything.
So it's like paying attention.
Paying attention,
to those little nudges.
Yeah, to the synchronicities.
To the synchronicities.
Yeah.
And actually, Swami Satchidananda shares a really sweet story to illustrate this point. And it's about this little boy who's worshiping
a peg.
A peg.
Yeah. As a Shivalingam.
As a Shivalingam. So he's like imbuing this ordinary object with this sacred significance.
Yeah.
And it's saying that God responds to the sincerity of our heart.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Not necessarily. It doesn't matter the outer form.
Yeah, the outer form, or like how much we know, or how sophisticated our practices are.
It's the heart.
It's the heart.
The pure intention.
Yeah. So I think that's really encouraging.
Yeah.
For people who maybe feel intimidated by
the whole spirituality thing.
Yeah, or they feel like they don't know enough.
Yeah.
Or they're not good enough.
Yeah.
The Gita's saying, like, no.
Yeah.
Just come as you are.
Come as you are.
With an open heart.
Yeah.
And that's enough.
That's enough.
So let's talk about the nature of the divine.
Okay.
Because the Gita offers all these different
perspectives,
names and ways of understanding this ultimate reality.
Yeah.
So for someone who's like really intellectually curious, how can we break this down in a way that's
digestible?
Yeah, digestible.
Yeah.
But also still honors
the mystery.
The mystery, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a balance there.
Absolutely.
You know, we don't want to oversimplify it.
Right.
But we also don't want to make it so complicated.
Inaccessible.
It's inaccessible, exactly. So one of the things that the Gita points out is that the ultimate motive behind all of our actions is to find joy, and peace.
Yeah, happiness.
Happiness, yeah.
Yeah.
But the Gita is saying that joy and peace is already inherent in our true self.
It's already there.
It's already there.
Yeah.
And I think this is referencing Krishna in verses 7.8, 11.
Yes, 7.8 through 11.
Okay.
Where he says, I am the taste and water.
Yeah.
I am the light and the sun and the moon. I am the sound in ether and the ability in man.
Oh, wow. So he's like the essence of everything.
Of everything, yeah.
And actually, Swami Satchidananda gives a really good analogy here.
He does.
He talks about
earrings.
Yeah,
it's like, you know, when you're frantically searching for your earrings.
Yeah.
And you're like, where are they? Where are they? Then you realize
you're already wearing them.
You're already wearing them.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like that with happiness. Yeah, we're searching for something that's already within us.
That's already within us.
Yeah.
And I think for our genius listener, they might be like, oh, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that concept.
Yeah. Non-duality. I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, non-duality. But it's like, okay, if it's already there, then why am I not experiencing it?
Why am I still suffering?
Yeah, why am I still suffering? Why am I still searching?
Yeah. And the Gita addresses that.
It does.
Yeah.
By introducing this concept of the gunas.
The gunas.
So what are the gunas?
So the gunas are these three qualities of nature, and they're called sattva, rajas, and tamas.
Okay, and these are emanating from the divine.
Yeah, so they come from God, but God is not
contained by them.
Contained by them, yeah.
So it's like God is beyond the gunas?
Exactly.
But the gunas are like...
Yeah, they're like filters.
The filters.
Through which we experience the world, through which we experience God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's verse 7.12.
Yes, 7.12.
Okay.
Where it says, know that the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, born of prakriti, bind the immutable self to the body.
So that's interesting because it's saying that our true self is not bound by the gunas.
It's beyond the gunas.
Yeah, it's beyond the gunas, but it's
our
perception. Perception that gets clouded by the gunas.
By the gunas, yeah.
And so that leads to this concept of Maya, which is often translated as illusion.
Yeah, divine illusion.
Divine illusion. So how would you explain Maya to our genius listener?
So Maya is this kind of like veil that's woven from the gunas.
Okay.
And it makes it really hard to see the truth.
The transcendent one?
Yeah, the transcendent one. So it's like, you know, you're looking at a mirror.
Yeah.
But the mirror is all smudged up. So you can't really see your reflection clearly.
Yeah, you can't see your true self.
Yeah, you can't see your true self.
And that's in verses 7.13, 14.
Yeah, 7.13 and 14.
Okay.
Where it says, deluded by the three gunas, the people of the world are attached to the objects of the senses and do not recognize me.
The transcendent one.
The transcendent one, yeah. Who is beyond the gunas.
So it's like we get so caught up.
Yeah.
In the play of the gunas.
In the drama.
Or the drama of life.
Yeah.
That we forget about.
Yeah.
The source.
This source.
Yeah. So the Gita also distinguishes between Purusha. And Prakriti. And I think this is another concept that can be a little bit tricky.
It's a little bit nuanced, yeah.
So how would you explain Purusha and Prakriti?
Okay, so Purusha is the absolute self, pure consciousness.
Okay.
And Prakriti is God's manifestation.
Oh, it's like the unmanifest and the manifest.
Yeah. And ultimately they are one.
But one.
Yeah.
So it's not like two separate things.
Yeah.
It's like two sides of the same coin.
Two sides of the same coin, yeah.
And that's verse 13.1.
Yes, 13.1.
Okay.
Where it says, this body is called the field.
Yeah.
And the one who knows it is called the knower of the field.
The knower of the field.
Yeah.
So it's like there's the experiencer.
Yeah.
And then there's the experience.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they're both expressions of the divine.
Yeah.
I think a good analogy for this is like dough.
Dough and bread.
Yeah, dough and bread.
Yeah, so you have the dough, which is like the unmanifest potential.
Yeah.
And then you can make all these different types of bread from that dough.
Yeah.
But it's all still essentially dough.
Yeah, it's all still essentially dough.
Yeah.
And so the Gita says that true knowledge is distinguishing Purusha from Prakriti. So it's like seeing through the illusion of separateness.
Of separateness, yeah.
And that's in verses 13.19-21.
Yeah, 13.19 through 21.
Okay.
Where it says, understand that Prakriti is the doer of all actions, and that the self is the non-doer.
The non-doer.
Yeah.
So it's like this radical shift in perspective.
Yeah.
From feeling like we're the ones
in control.
Yeah. To recognizing that there's a greater force at play.